So as mentioned, today's webinar, we're going to be covering end of year thank yous and reporting. So we're going to basically touch on three main topics today. We're going to touch on year-end thank yous through communications. We'll also talk about using advanced search to pull lists of donors based on donation date. And then we'll look at reports. So in reports, we'll just pull up some basic reports of donations and donors for the year. And then as time permits, there will definitely be time. We'll go ahead and take requests for types of reports, and we'll look at how to make anything that might be of interest to you. So the main thing we're going to talk about today, the really big one, is year-end thank you. So from the main menu, we're going to go to year-end thank you. So this is a pretty simple process. It's very similar to donation acknowledgement or newsletter, kind of a blend of the two if you've used them. And not much to it. We're basically going to select our year, select our template. We're going to create a template as well, and criteria for refining our search. So let's start there. So first things first, we can give our batch a name. If you're going to be segmenting your year-end thank yous, this becomes more important so you know what your segments were, what your breakdown was. If you're just doing one thank you for everybody, then it's not as big a deal. So let's just call this the 2015 year-end thank you. So nothing fancy. We will select our year. So we're going to thank for 2015. And I apparently have only 5 donors for 2015. So what this means is probably I've already snagged them in a different batch because the system remembers everybody I've already thanked. So if I do thank yous for, say, everybody, and then back enter some more donations, those new people will be added in, and I won't have to risk acknowledging the old. So I'm going to do something real quick. I'm going to go to View History. I'm going to delete my last batch so that I have more people to work with. Yeah, so here I have 2 batches for 2015. I'm going to go ahead and delete them. I could view them, but basically I just want to get those donations back for our purposes today. So those batches never happened. Now, when I go and select 2015, I should get something in the hundreds. There you go, 112. So automatically, the system will select, when you select your year, every possible donor from that year. We can refine this if we want to. So we'll come back, we'll touch on templates in just a second, but we can use an advanced search to refine that list and break this into segments. So we might have different letters based on the amount of donation someone gives. So we might have one letter for everybody over 1,000 and one letter for everybody under 1,000. So we'll do 2 different batches for each. So let's go ahead and do our batch of people over 1,000. So year-end acknowledgement over 1K. So we can go ahead and say, all right, well, what's our criteria? We want everybody who gave, so we're going to keep going down until we get to the gift section, an amount, so amount greater than or equal to 1,000. Now, on its own, this will look at individual amounts. So someone gave a donation for $1,000 in one go. This wouldn't catch someone who gave 2 500s or some other combination therein. So for that, we have a grouping, and we use sum. Sum means to add together. It's a summation. So we're going to use sum and hit search, and this will refine our list basically in half to only $1,000 and up donors who have given a sum of 1,000 or more. So like I said, could be one time, could be multiples of 250 or 500 or whatever combination. So 51 recipients, we can click on this, review it as needed. And now is a template. So the template's the really big part because we saw here everything's been pretty simple so far. So our template is what the letter is going to be. So I can select from an existing one with a reminder that these are all managed under Manage Templates, or I can create a new one or edit an existing one. So I'm actually going to go ahead and edit an existing one and just hit Edit Template. And this is going to bring up the template editor. It's the same template editor we use for newsletters, labels and letters, and regular donation acknowledgement. It's just end of year. So the end of year templates are different from your day-to-day donation acknowledgements. They're stored actually, though, all in managed templates. They're in their own different collection. So we'll show that in a little bit before we move on to other parts of today. But here's our editor. So we have the various sections. I can clean this up. And we have our placeholders, so gift amount, current year, stuff like that. So let's go ahead and edit our text area. Brings it over here to the right. We know the editor. I'm not going to be covering it in detail today, but we have our placeholders. So these placeholders will function a little differently than they do in regular donation acknowledgements. Specifically, gift amount. This, instead of being a singular gift amount, will be the cumulative gift amount for that year. So if I gave $1,000 in $2,000 donations, it would say $2,000. If I gave a single donation, it'll show just that amount. So it's going to be the cumulative. So beyond that, most everything else works the same, current year and all that. But there's another placeholder of particular interest called transaction data. It's all the way down here at the bottom. Transaction grid. That needs to be replaced. No, it's called transaction data. Okay. What this is going to do is going to put in a table of all the donations for the year. So I could put in some text that says, donation history, and then have my table. So this will give me a line item list of every donation for this person for the year. So gift amount, cumulative, transaction data is your line item. Everything else will be things like current year, put today's date, your formal salutations, all those other placeholders that you love using. Actually, these organizations should all say client, but we ignore that for today. Other than that, editing the template is the same as it would be for regular donation acknowledgement. We have all the same widgets available, images, dividers, social media, if it's going to be emailed, text, all that. So, any questions on the editor for today's purposes?
Eric, this is Sandra, and I do have a question.
Yes.
You kind of went a little fast for me, but I just want to make sure that I understood correctly. Where the placeholders are, we would leave those the same, and the editor would automatically grab that information from the database?
Yes. So what's going to happen is when we generate the letters in a few minutes, this gift amount will be filled in by the system for the person, for the contact. So it's basically a mail merge, and these are mail merge fields. So gift amount will fill in with the proper information. Transaction grid will become a table with all of our donations. So yeah, I think your understanding is correct. It'll fill in for you. So here we'll just see the placeholders, but later on, when we actually get our letters, we'll see it filled in. So, good question. Anyone else? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close out my editor. I don't have any changes I want to make here. If I didn't have any, widgets, edit, delete, copy, all that, overall layout, I could rename the template if I wanted to, changing my code and all that, but not going to at this time. So I'm going to go ahead and save. And I could have also created that template in Manage Templates, which we'll visit in a little bit. So at this point, I'm basically done. Pretty straightforward. I've given my batch a name. I selected the year. I selected and edited or created my template. I refined my search. If you didn't want to have different letters for different types of donors, you wouldn't do this. And I hit my search, and I'm all ready to go. So now I just hit generate, and your request has been generated. You will get an email when it's done. So I'm going to get an email probably about 20 minutes from now with the finished letters ready for download and printing. So here it is. I can review my recipients in here. I can once it's complete. It's still processing. I will also have a download button once it's done processing. So none of that's ready yet. We will visit back on it once I get the email. I'll show you the email once it pops into my inbox. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and look at Manage Templates just to help remind folk of where things are. So we'll come back to this screen in a little bit to download our document and take a look at it, but the system's still processing it. The reason we do it in that way and that you don't get it immediately is because it may take quite some time to process. Some organizations, you may have 100 donors. Other organizations, you may have thousands. So in my case, I have 51 in this batch. So it's not going to be too bad. So it shouldn't take too long. If I would probably then actually go from here and make my next batch for everybody else. But I'm not going to do that at this time for time purposes. So otherwise, I could go back and make a new batch. So wanted to mention it. Manage templates is where all your templates are stored. Most of you, if you've used templates for regular donation acknowledgement, are used to going here, and the first place you go is your donation acknowledgements. However, your year ends are actually stored under communication, year-end thank you. So these are your year-end thank you letters. You can edit them, and it is a separate pool from your regular acknowledgements. Currently, there is not a way to copy from acknowledgement into year-end. So there's that. Okay. So while we're waiting for that email, is there any questions about the year-end acknowledgement process so far? There's actually not a lot to it. So okay, so let's do a little bit, let's run an advanced search. So another thing that sometimes people would like to do is get just lists of who are my donors from the year. Well, we can do that in reports, which we'll touch on a little bit, or we can just run an advanced search. So I usually like to use the quick menu. You can also get here from the main menu, search. And we honestly have already done this to a point. So we are going to use the same criteria that we used with our year-end thank yous. Now, we need one extra criteria that we did not need in the year-end. So the year-end already had whittled it down to just the donations for 2015. So for our purposes here, we need to add a criteria to do that for us. So we're going to set up our criteria. We're going to have 2. And whenever we have multiple criteria, we always want to make sure we know what our matching is. So match all says both criteria must be true. Match any means only one of them needs to be true. And versus or. So all is and, any is or. So the first thing I like to do is whittle it down to the year. So our criteria, once again from the gift section, we're looking at the donations, is gift date. So gift date is between, so between, and then your date range. So January, oops, did I not get that? 01/01/2015, that should work. Okay, so I like to type it in. You can use the calendar if you want, just make sure you have your leading zeros. So the first of the year all the way to 12/31/2015. So we go ahead and just pull all the donations for the year. So that's our first criteria. That has to be true. And we add a new rule. And we do the same one we did earlier. Oop, too far. I can spell Eric. Geez, there we go. So we did gift date. Now we do, oh, actually, that's all we need to do. Excuse me. That will give you every donation, or every donor, excuse me, that donated this year. If we wanted to say we wanted to see only the major donors, that's when we would put the other criteria in. So that's when we would do the gift amount. If you just want all donors, you can skip this step. But if you do want to do like your major donors, then we do what we did before, and amount greater than or equal to 1,000 and sum it. So up to you. So let's go ahead and run this, and let's see who those 51 people were. So search. And you could put any other criteria you want. I just happen to be doing by amount, but you could also say, I want to see the donors from this year who are members. I want to see the ones that are volunteers if you're using Fundly Connect. I want to see what have you. So running a search. And my computer is being a little on the sluggish side today. But we are working on speeding that up. I've been noticing it's been a little sluggish lately. So here are 56. Why do I have 56? Oh, it might be that I had 5 contacts who had no communication preferences or options, so that maybe they got dropped from the year end. I have to look into that. That should be the same. But putting that aside, here are our major donors, $1,000 or more from this year. And we can, if we want to, export this list. So this is a quick way to actually get a list of those donors that we might want to look at. So maybe we want to use these for a mailing list. So export to CSV will give us a file with every piece of information we might need to do so. Or we could have searched by something else. So any questions about doing an advanced search to find your year-end donors?
Eric, Sandra speaking again.
Hello.
Is it possible to be able, if we wanted to not mail these per se, but email them, is it possible to search all the emails?
Yes. So I could have added criteria to say email has to not be empty and communication preferences have to be true, or I could have done the same search from a newsletter. So newsletters work basically the same way as that year-end thank you, where let me actually get to a newsletter I already have set up. Let me edit a newsletter here. Monthly update. Where's the saved only? Saved only. Here we go. So in step 2 of newsletters, everything else should be very familiar. Template, sender information. But in step 2 of select recipients, it will automatically go to all possible recipients, but I can set criteria for donors in the date range of this year, and then any other criteria I want. So with newsletter, you can email your recipients. I don't believe, however, and let's confirm this, that newsletter has the placeholder for the transaction grid. So let me confirm that with myself, because I haven't explicitly tested that. Yes, it is not present. So this would be if you just want to communicate with those year-end people. So that being said, the year-end thank you process does let you email, and we're about to see that in just a second. So this answers, I think, part of your question. I think what I'm about to show you will answer the other part. So this is if you want to do like an end-of-year appeal to your donors from the year. But now that, here it is. Okay. So here's the email I got. And it gives me a link that will take me directly to year-end thank yous. And will take me directly to that one. So I can get there manually by going to view history, view recipients. Yeah, view recipients is the one I want. And will take me into the process. So give it a second. Why is this blank? What's going on here? There it is. Okay. So this is very similar to the normal donation acknowledgement process. At this point, we get to select how we want to send it out. So if we do want to send the acknowledgement itself by email, that's already built into this process. Newsletter is just if you want to send another communication, which is what I thought you meant at first, but now I think you meant this. So here, I go ahead and select how I want to send it. These will normally be set based on someone's communication preferences. If they don't have an email, it won't let me. If they don't have a mail, it won't let me. So for some of these, I will actually need to remove them from my batch and handle them later. So I can click on this. It'll show me all of them. So I have 16 that I can't send to for one reason or another. I'm going to get them all on the same page because this makes life easier. So So I've got 16. I could try them, or I could, you know what, I'm going to set these aside for later. Delete multiple, select all, delete. And what this does is it takes them out of this batch and puts them back into the queue to be acknowledged. So they'll now be available in year-end thank you to try again. So I'd make a new batch for those people after I've reviewed their records and seen why I can't send to them. Otherwise, email, sender name, subject line, sender email, send email. We'll send to all these folk, all, what is this, 28 of them. And then mail, pick your download option. I like PDF. I'm sure it looks terrible because I have not worked on that template, but let's see what we get. So it's going to give me my PDF document. And here we have, so LeBron James is our first one. Here's his total for the year during 2016. Here's his breakdown. So gift date, program, gift amount, tribute information, so if it was tributed to anybody. Next person, star cell, get into Oswa, so on and so forth. If someone had a lot of donation, it would push onto a second page. So keep that in mind. But otherwise, I can print these up. These actually don't look too bad. I expected these to actually look terrible, but I guess, yeah. But yeah. And then hit done printing. And then that way it knows you're done. And then we also have the option for download envelope. I like mentioning this because a lot of times people don't know about it. You'll create an envelope template. You can edit it and then download them as a PDF. And it'll then give you a standard number 9 envelope. I think it's number 9. That's your standard envelope. Either that or number 10. I always forget which one's which. And it'll give you a PDF, and you just set up your printer for download printing to envelopes, and it'll print all these people to your envelopes. Pretty cool. But yeah, that's the end of the actual built-in year-end acknowledgement process. Any questions?
I'm sorry, I didn't see where you went to the envelope.
Oh,
where did
right
you
here.
Ah, gotcha.
So we
Okay.
have PDF, Word documents, HTML, so these are our letters, and then we have envelopes. I recommend PDF. PDF is a nice consistent format from one system to another. I know if I give this to my coworker, it will look the same and they can open it. Word documents have a way of being inconsistent from user to user because there's so many different versions of Word out there. I have, I think, 2010. You might have 2012. They do work differently, and formatting will be a little different. So something to keep in mind. And HTML prints it from within the browser. Some people like that. Most of the time I don't recommend it because browsers don't always behave themselves when it comes to line breaks, page breaks. So there's that. And so yeah, any other questions? Alrighty, so, oh, go ahead.
I was wondering, do you know how we can link our children to the donors? The children that the donors have been making these payments for.
Gotcha. So, so for your organization, you have, so everybody has a little background on the question, you have children who are sponsored by donors, and so it's sponsored child, pretty cool. So your question is, how would you be able to, in your letters, to say who the child that the donor is sponsoring is? Unfortunately, since I don't have a placeholder that can access custom data sets, which is effectively where that information is stored, I am not in a position to be able to get that information automatically generated into the letters. So unfortunately, in your particular situation, we won't be able to make that part of the process. Placeholders are reliant upon the data being consistent from system to system. Custom data sets are different from system to system, thus being custom. So unfortunately, in your situation, we wouldn't be able to do get those automatically pushed into the letter. So for you, depending on how many donors you have, you might consider using Word doc, and then you can edit the document manually. That does put more manual work on you, but the system's done most of the work for you, so it's just something to consider. And then, if need be, we can discuss more one-on-one your particular needs. But at the moment, that would be the only suggestion I have, is that they use Word doc and then add it manually. That is the advantage of Word doc of a PDF. So,
Okay. Okay.
yeah. Anybody else? Any other questions? All right. So we have now covered year-end acknowledgement. So let's pretend we've sent out these acknowledgements. We covered advanced search as just a way to get a quick list. Well, let's go into reporting a bit and see what our options are there. So let us start with default reports. So every organization has different year-end procedures. I've been kind of focusing on donations, but there are other things you might be interested in at the end of the year, varied by organization to organization. So I'm going to keep focusing on donations, but I'll touch on events too, just in case, because I got a nice fun report for that. But donation reports, we'll have a couple of reports that will be handy for you. And this will be very similar to the end of the advanced search. So we have all these donation reports. So this allows you to run a report of donations with the criteria where you can look at the date of the donation. This will give you every donation. This one will give you it grouped by program, gift source, fund, campaign, and in-kinds donations. So these would be just great ways to see, what program did well this year, what fund, what campaign. So let's go ahead and run program. So I'm going to run program. And bear with me as reports run. And it's going to have a number of filters that we have available. The only one of particular interest for a year-end perspective is donation date, because that's going to be what's going to let us dictate what year we look at. Same thing we did with donation acknowledgement. So right now mine's set for 2016. I'm going to go ahead and manually change this back to 2015. So we can, if we wanted to, refine it further. I'm going to choose not to. In reports at this time, donation amount is not cumulative. It's one time. There are ways to do cumulative. I will show you a report for that. How you can do that, how to build such a report. I'll also be covering that on Thursday. But at the moment, just know that donation amount is inherently per donation. So we'll set that aside. So your date criteria, and then run it. So in this case, I'm going to get a list of all donations broken up and grouped by program with the totals per program. So this will let me know what programs did well this year. Or I could run the campaign version, see what campaigns did well. Oh, I had it set for Excel. Hold on. I'm used to running them as PDFs. So give me a second while it opens, and I'll pull it over. Okay, so, excuse me, there we go. So here we have it. That's going to start off with no program at all. Hold on, my computer's being slow. Here we go. So most of my donations have no program. So I get a long, long list of those. Long, long, long list. And then we go into our program. So the art program, for example. So without a program, oh, Excel is not happy today. There we go. So each program will give you a nice subtotal. And we can see what programs are doing well. So it looks like most of my programs are just kind of doing okay, but some of them are doing pretty good. So that's one report option available to you that could be helpful for end of year. Otherwise, we can, like I said, use the other donation reports. There's also things like the income comparison report. You can see where this one actually I like better. You can see where your donations are coming from, in person, online, things like that. Or we could build a custom report. So most of the reports I've seen people run have been some combination of these. So a lot of times when people say I need a report to see what campaigns are doing well, I would use the campaign report. Otherwise, something custom. But another thing people like, I've seen some people report on, are their events. So we're going to shift gears a little bit, and then we'll do a little bit of custom reporting. We'll play with a couple custom reports. So event reports, I've got a couple of helpful ones in here. Particular of interest are the event return on investment reports. So you might want to see, how did my events do overall this year? What was profitable, so I can plan my events for the next year. So one I like is the event return on investment report with GIFs. This will also show you not just the event, but also the GIFs attached to the event. So event sponsorships, for example, or event, donations made at the event. So this gives you like a full view of how that event did. So I'm gonna go ahead and execute it. And I think this one has a date range criteria. If not, we can add it in. No, I'll get it added in. How are we doing on time? We're doing okay on time. All right. So event starts on. This is where I can say January 1st, 2015 till December 31st, 2015 at almost midnight. So once again, just set your date range and run. And so this report will pull every event that started in that date range and give you your ROI information for it. So just kind of the stuff you can do. So we can see here that, most of my events did make a profit. They were in the black. Some of them didn't do anything, art for cats, and then some of them were negative. And this does include gifts. So this one didn't bring in much in the way of tickets, but there were a lot of donations made connected to it at the annual gala. So that would be one worth doing again. While the concert here, I believe this is a series, failed miserably. So this might be a helpful report if you're doing events for seeing what events did well last year and which ones you may want to continue. So otherwise, we do have, we don't really have any reports on membership, most people, but you can, I think there's just some basic membership reporting in there. We could also look at, what memberships, how many memberships were signed up for within a date range. So really when it comes down to reporting for end of year, it's all about just setting your date ranges, find, the grant report, the donation report, the membership, the event report that would give you information you want, and then set the date range for the year. So any questions about the default reports that we have? Okay, so to date, the default reports have covered most of the end of year reporting needs I've come across. If you do have a custom report need, you can make your own report. I can help you with that. I have a webinar on Thursday, which I will also be recording like this one, where I go into the details of making reports. Or shoot us an email, support at fundly.com, and we can work with you on building a custom report. But another common, I will show off, I will edit a report and show you real quick how to do some basic report making. Just kind of a crash course, really. So let's pull up our enhanced reports. You can create an express report. This will take you through a wizard that basically step 1, step 2, step 3 kind of stuff. It's great for making basic lists. It's basically what we can do with advanced search, but you'll get more control over the fields. Cumulative does tend to be a problem there, as mentioned. Otherwise, we also have standard reports, which are more advanced reports. We won't be covering too much today, but that's the kind of thing where you can do summation. So let me pull up one of my reports. I think this is the one I want. I'm going to edit it. So if you're working with a standard report, which is basically any time you copy a default report, there's a trick to giving your year-end totals. So we'll just play with the report real quick. I think this is the one I want. So with reporting done, there was a question of going back to how to rearrange the layout of the letters for donation acknowledgement. So I'm going to go ahead and do this from Manage Templates. So we're going to go back to Manage Templates. And we're going to go to Communication, Year-End Thank You, since we're focused on year-end, and end of year. And we're just going to go ahead and edit our template. And if you want to rearrange anything, just grab it, drag it, and it'll say drop widget here, and it'll let you put it there. And it'll bring up the editor, and I can make changes. Or I can grab it again, put it back. If I want to add a new section, just find whatever section I want to add. So maybe I want to put an image in, drag it, and let's say it's going to be a banner. Banner's going to be a little tough. Come on. Where is it? There it is. And drop it in. And then upload your image. So put in your logo, put in your banner, put in your letterhead, whatever you're going to want up at the top. In this case, I do not want that. So I'm going to delete it. So if you need to remove section, delete, edit, copy. All right. Did that answer the question about rearranging layout and working with the layout?
Yes, thank you.
Cool.
That was good. Thank you.
Well, I believe that's everything. So today, to recap, we talked about, let me get out of here, we talked about using the built-in year-end acknowledgement process under Communications, so main menu, year-end thank you letters. We talked about running advanced searches to get lists of people such as donors for the year, and we talked about working with default reports to pull some helpful information. So if you have any other questions, let me know. You can always email support@fundly.com with any other questions, or if you have phone support turned on, you can also give us a call.
Eric, since we do have about 10 minutes